Greetings, I'm Pillar Nexus, the Ancient Gladiator, with more Pillar Loves tabletop games. And today, I'm very happy to bring you Clash of Cultures Monumental Edition. The nice little redone version of Clash of Cultures that includes the Civilizations expansions, including the Aztecs. This has been a game that I've been waiting for a long time, and I was absolutely ecstatic to get it. I had the previous version at one point, and that's what sold me on getting this one. So let's go over it together. So the overall goal of this game is to get victory points. And how do you get them? You get points for city pieces built around your settlement. I believe the settlement itself counts as a city piece. You get a half point per advance. Do not ignore the fractions. They might help break a tie at the end. These advances come in various categories, such as agriculture, construction, maritime, science, and others. And then there's also the governments that result from following certain paths, like education leads to democracy, warfare leads to autocracy, and spirituality leads to theocracy. So, aside from that, there's also objectives, are worth 2 points each. The objectives have two things you can try to achieve, one or the other. The top half of the objective is more developmental. You get it by trying to build up your civilization. The bottom half is more aggressive or oppressive. You're trying to achieve it through military approaches or just being a dominating force. Wonders are worth 4 points each. They are represented with these very nice tokens. Like, here's the Great Pyramids. They're referred to great something. The pyramids are actually worth 5 points, and at the end of the game, if there's a tie and you're one of the ones tied for it, you break that tie. As long as you maintain control of the pyramids. It's possible for somebody to conquer a city with your wonder, in which case we'll make a note of it with like an extra cube, and the player who conquered it will split the points with the original owner of the wonder. And then events. So there will be events that will be triggered throughout the game, and some of them, upon inflicting certain disasters, like earthquakes or volcanoes, that destroy things, will be worth points at the end to make up for going through the disaster then. Yeah, I think the idea is, the evidence that your civilization went through this disaster is, important knowledge that, later on. So it's like, it's part of history, one way or another. And then with these civilizations adding leaders, every leader belonging to an opponent that you destroy gets you 2 points. Oh yeah, speaking of civilizations, with the advanced game, you'll be able to take a civilization advance card, and every time you achieve the advance shown in the box, you will get the actual advancement. So tribal warfare requires tactics. So as soon as you get tactics, you get tribal warfare. with the Celts. There's 15 different civilizations. And 3 leaders per civilization. So that's going to open up a lot of possibilities for various interactions. So at the start of the game, you will have a color of your choice. There's red, yellow, blue, and purple. The old edition had green, but they changed it. You will start with a settlement on the plains. You will start with a mood token that says that city is happy. As long as you don't push them around, they will continue to be happy. Push them around too much and they will be mad. You don't want that. Unless you like being a tyrant. And then you will also get a settler. You will also have your advance board with farming and mining. You will start with 2 food and 0 ore, wood, gold, or ideas. And 3 cubes in the event track. Whenever you do an advance, you will take a cube from the event track to put it where it goes. When you clear out the event track, you will trigger an event from the deck, which will do various things like spawning and moving barbarians, giving you gold, making resources unusable, and doing all sorts of crazy stuff. And then restore your event tracker. Now, once again, this is a game with a resource tracker, and as much as I've made clear other opinions of mine, I've made clear how much I despise resource trackers. So this is one of the games where I modified with having actual cubes, since getting actual resource tokens that better represent it are not exactly easy, but whenever I'm playing this game with people I know, we're going to be using these cubes as a tracker, because screw that. It's worth noting that your food is limited to 2 at most until you get storage. That's the only real limit, unless you get Dogma, which will limit your ideas to 2. You will also start the game with 1 objective card and 1 action card. You will get a new objective at the end of each age. Each age is 1 round, 2 rounds, 3 rounds. For every round, the first player will take 3 actions, and the next player so on until everyone's done so. And the second round, keep going around and all that. And then the status phase will hit. And objectives that can be played during the status phase will be played then. Action cards have 2 things going for them. There's the top part, which is played as an action or as a free action. There may be a cost or a reaction restriction up here, like culture or whatever. But the bottom half is called a tactic. You can only use tactics if you have the tactics advanced beneath warfare. And warfare is the only way you can move army units as well. So, with all that set up, that'll be the map. This is for 2 players. 3 will be a little bit different, 4 will be a little bit different. Generally, everyone will use a starting area of barrens, mountains, forest, plains. There will be blue areas to come up that are sea. Unless you're playing with certain civilization. Egypt, Maya, Carthage, Vikings, and Phoenicia. Use different starting zones. Some of them will start with water, or an extra mountain, or no forest, which sucks. Yeah, sucks to be Egypt. But hey. With barrens, if you get irrigation, you can get food. and with water, if you have fishing, you can get the food through that as well. Anyway, everything will be set up, and the first player will take their first turn, and then the game will proceed as follows. Your very helpful status card will let you know what your actions and everything else are. So actions include gaining an advance. You will pay 2 food or ideas or gold. Gold in general is just a universal resource for using in place of something else that you need. If an objective calls for a specific resource, I believe you have to use that specific resource. So get an advance, spend 2 food, and then pull from the event tracker. The first advance you have to get in a category has to be the top one, and then you can start getting the rest. So let's say we go into maritime, ahoy, and fishing. So certain advances will give you access to buildings, like maritime will let you, fishing lets you have ports attached to your cities. Of course, the city will have to be adjacent to a body of water to do so. And getting that before I've discovered any water is probably a dumb idea. So let's reconsider. I know, writing. So that gives me access to the academy is old school looking building. So there you go. So now I can start building academies. And there are certain limitations on building that I'll go over in a minute. So when you get the advance, if it's yellow, you get a free mood token that goes into your personal collection that you can use that as required for certain effects. Putting it on a blue gets you a culture token, which will trigger certain abilities and certain action cards, and most importantly, help you build wonders. You need a crap ton of culture tokens for wonders. So have a plan. Again, pulling the last cube from the event tracker will trigger an event and will refill the event track. So that was an advance. Found city. So remove your settler from a space that is not barren or water. So like if I got a guy over here, so I can remove him and put down a new settlement. You want to have more settlements because that opens up your ability to have more buildings around your settlements. You are limited to a number of buildings equal to or less than the number of cities in total that you have. And every building adds to its size, which affects certain things. Activate city. Either recruit units, collect resources, or construct a building. So, recruiting units, you will pay the cost as listed. A new settler costs 2 food. They cannot fight. If they're walking alongside your army and your army gets into the fight and your army dies, your settler dies too. Infantry. You can always buy infantry to protect your settlements. You just can't move them without tactics. They cost 1 food and 1 ore. And they get you a combat die. You are limited to 4 army people moving at once. Ship. requires a port. A ship can carry up to 2 land units and provide dice for naval combat. They can only be built in the sea space where the port is located. They cost 2 wood. Cavalry. You must have the market, which is opened up by bartering underneath the economy. And they cost a food and a wood. And it gets you a knife for combat. Elephants also require a market. Yes, you can have elephants in this game. It's awesome. They cost 2 food, provide a die for combat. Their clash ability can also cancel a hit as well, but you disregard the combat value. Leaders require no building. You just have to have at least 1 culture token and 1 mood token. And you have to have at least 1 of your cards remaining. If all 3 of your leaders are dead, you can't get leaders anymore. It sucks. Their clash ability is pretty nice too. Lets you reroll. So in battle there'll be these dice. When certain abilities show, if you have 1 unit per die that shows the result, you can use the clash ability. The leaders is nice because it lets you reroll this 1 to something better. Yeah. And those are the recruitable units. Collecting resources is interesting. It lets you collect. So you can collect a number of resources equal to the size of the city. And then if they're happy, they collect 1 additional resource. If they're angry, they can only collect 1 resource, period. They can collect resources based on the place occupied and anything adjacent, but only once per area. You cannot collect resources from any space that contains enemy units, an exhausted land marker, which is brought on by events, or another city, regardless of owner. When you're building your cities, you're going to need to spread the hell out, because having them right next to each other, you're going to be stepping on each other's toes for resources, and that's not going to help. But anyway, so I can get 2 resources with this city. So any combination of a food, a wood, or an ore. And increase that. So let's say my turn was I advance, and then I collect. I don't have the army dude yet. I collect a food and an ore, and then I activate that city a second time to recruit 1 army guy. So if you activate a city in the same turn multiple times, its mood goes down. So the first time you activate it's fine, the second goes down. The third, doing it while it's at this point will make it angry. And then a city that's currently angry can only be activated once. So be careful with that. So I activated that city twice. So I now have a not so happy city. That was probably a bad move. But anyway. Oh, there's also construct a building. In general, buildings cost 1 food, 1 ore, 1 wood for each of them. You can only construct the building if your city is neutral or happy. An angry city will not get you anything. Nobody wants to build shit because they're pissed. But again, you have to have the appropriate technology for it. So, yeah. Fishing gets ports, which require sea spaces. Education gets writing, which leads to academies. Warfare leads to tactics, which leads to the fortress. Spirituality leads to myths, which leads to the temple. Economy leads to bartering, which leads to the market. Traditions leads to arts, which leads to the obelisk. Very pointy, be very careful with it. And finally, science leads to math, leads to the observatory. And then those buildings have their own special effects as well. Like the academy gets you ideas when constructed. The temple lets you get mood or culture token when constructed. There's other stuff. Another action is a move. Up to 3 different units or groups of units. So exploring is critical to having more things to work with and ultimately win the game. So let's say we move here. So we're going to flip this up. So this has to go this way because I cannot move into C. Now, if I came from the other side, I can decide which way to rotate this because there's no C space to continue. Then if I move them again, on like a different turn, and let's say I go here. So when I do that, I have the option to have it like this or have it like this. Depending on how I set it up, it'll affect something later. So let's say I set it like this. Now let's say I had someone else and they moved like that. Now, normally when there's water, it has to be facing the outside. However, if there's already water that it could touch, then it has to be touching that water unless I moved into the space that made it where it couldn't do it. So if I move there, then the water has to go out there. If I moved here, then the water has to go here in order to touch that other water. Yeah. Yeah, eventually the map will be fully revealed as people explore and, do more and, make it come into being and all that stuff. Just make the whole map. Let's say that's the end result of the map building process. Because eventually there will be naval things for moving from sea to more sea to other sea. And then there's increased happiness. You pay a number of your mood tokens equal to the size of the city, which is something you want to do early on before it gets stupid expensive. And then it gains 1 level of happiness. So if it was angry, 1 mood token makes it neutral. If it was neutral, 1 mood token makes it happy. And then finally, there's influence culture, whereby, depending on the size of your city, you'll be able to hit someone else's city with a cultural attack. What you'll need to do is first they're going to have a city that has more than one building around it, not counting wonders, because when it happens, what you'll do is replace one of their buildings with one of yours. So the way it works, so the target city, the range of your city is equal to its size, not modified by mode. So if I had like three pieces to it, so I can hit someone 3 spaces away. And then I'd roll a die. Alternatively, if you're short on range, you can use your culture tokens. But let's say there's another city right here. I need to roll a 5. 5 or 6. So I roll a 4. I'm going to need to spend a culture token to raise that to a 5. So when you do that, because it's successful, that's the only culture influence attempt I'm allowed this turn. And I will replace one of their buildings with one of mine. So let's say they had an observatory. Their observatory is replaced with mine. So that gets me 2 points at the end of the game. Or 1 point at the end of the game. It screws them out of 1 point. An influence city can never target another city with influence. But they can target themselves to clear that influence out and get their own culture back into line that way. And then, the only thing I need to cover is combat. So when you actually move, you have the opportunity to fight. Let's say you're fighting a barbarian. So land combat, you'll get 1 die per figure that you have. They'll have a die per figure they have. There'll be an opportunity to play action cards if you have tactics. You should have tactics if you're actually moving in, though. But sometimes barbarians get to your settlements before you have tactics, in which case it's good to have an army in to protect it. But yeah, tactics. You'll set the card face down, and then the defender, if they're not if they're not a barbarian, can place theirs face down and flip it face up. Tactics can trigger off of armies, ships, fortresses. So let's say I have that. So as the attacker, I get an extra die. Okay. And then we roll. They rolled a 3, which is not good enough. I rolled a 7. I rolled a helmet, which will trigger the clash ability for infantry, which is a +1, makes it an 8. Not that I really need it. Every 5 total in the roll lets you eliminate 1 enemy. So my 8 is going to kill 1 guy. If there were 2 guys and I rolled a 10, I would have killed 2 guys. But yeah. And then end of battle check. If one side has no units remaining, they lose. The winner gets stuff. So barbarians will block collecting their space. And so it helps to eliminate them. You'll get a gold for every barbarian you defeat. If they had a city, you'll get a bonus gold for defeating it as well. Yeah. Barbarians also have access to cavalry and elephants. Like, oh shit. And it's also possible to encounter pirates while out at sea as well. They block trade routes as well. And yeah. Let's see. Is there anything else special I should probably go over? Wonders. So the only way to... So yeah, let's cover Wonders real quick. Because Wonders, the only way to get a card is to have either engineering... Where'd you go? Engineering or monuments. In order to actually build a wonder, you need to have engineering. And you have to have a happy city, and you have enough freaking resources. Wonders are stupid ass expensive, but because they're worth 4 points at the end of the game, or 5 with pyramids, it's pretty much worth the cost. And they'll have their special abilities. And of course you gotta have space as well. Woo, pyramids. Oh, and there's a required technology as well. Like you need to have rituals, which is down here in spirituality. Yeah. It's entirely possible over the course of the game to build 2 wonders in 2 different cities. And then try to capture others belonging to your opponent. Which would be a huge point advantage. Yeah. So you'll have your 3 actions, and then the next player will go and around and around. Eventually you'll get to the status phase, where you can complete objectives. If they don't... Yeah, most objectives are going to be during the status phase. Some will be immediate. You will get a free advance, which is always nice. And you're still develop. You can still develop, even if you're kind of struggling. It can help keep you from being too far behind. Draw new cards. Drawing new cards, you'll get another action and another objective. And you can give up a size 1 city for gold. Sometimes you might have a city that's just kind of stepping on your own toes that you didn't really need, and you can just use it for the money. I don't always recommend it, but there may be a scenario that requires it. Change government type. If you have a mood and a culture, you can move all your stuff from one government into the other, as long as you meet the prerequisites. To open up governments, first you'll need to open up the category itself, then you'll need to get the bottom advance, and then you can get the government. You're only allowed to have one of these 3 at a time. But you have the option to spend those and switch to something else you're eligible for. And then determine first player. The player with the highest combined total of boon and culture tokens gets to go first for the next round. And then the game continues on. If there's a tie, first tied player to the left of the current first player gets to decide. During the very last round of the game, that final status phase, we go to complete objectives, and then that's the game. You'll count up your victory points and determine the winner. And then, yeah. Yeah, that's pretty much it. That is the game. Why do I love this game? Because it is the ultimate civilization experience. I've had the Sid Meier's Civilization. I've had the a redone version of the old school Civilization uh, from Gibson's games. I've had Civilization and New Dawn, and I've had the previous version of Clash of Cultures. And as much as I like the crazy stuff that can happen in the Sid Meier's Civilization by Kevin Wilson, I just like this experience a lot more. It's I like the advanced system. Um, I like the objective choice, the action choice, the the classic wonders. Um, as it's and it has a definite end to it. You know, it ends after 6 ages, or you can play the short game, which is like 4, which works just as well. There's also the variable, but yeah, the game's gonna end. Period. There's no stalling it out, and the figures are pretty nice too. The the figures for Sid Meier's Civ are just like little wagons and little flags and tiles for the cities and the buildings. And I don't know. Granted, there's some crazy stuff that can happen in that one, like um, playing as, like one time playing as the Zulus and having Frank Lloyd Wright as a great person and having the Statue of Liberty as a wonder and building airplanes. That crazy shit. That's kind of fun. But I think overall I like this experience a little bit more for being a little more focused, I think. Yeah. It's it is not a cheap game, unfortunately, but it is a solid game that gets my highest recommendation. I am absolutely positive about this game. So I hope you'll get a chance to try it out too. Thank you very much for watching. This has been Polar Nexus. I will see you next video.